Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through my Hydra team's full auto for Hydra Rotation 2. I'm always a little bit late. There's always stuff comes up and I'm a little bit late getting these teams out to you. So I do apologize for that. And guess what? The interesting thing about this is that ARTAK, even after his nerf, is still coming into my top team, my #1 team, which I think is always pretty interesting. So let's take a look at this. So first of all, we're going to jump into my hard team. Oh, actually, there it is. We're actually second in the clan. That's hilarious. My hard team is very, very overkill right here. So you can see this hard team on full auto is doing 89 million damage. I've shown a few variants of this team before, with the key being Oella plus Uko. Really, I'm building this high resist, or not even high resist, but by comboing decreased accuracy with increased resistance and buff extension, we actually build what is effectively a high resistance team without needing to build that much resistance. So because of Oella, plus that decreased accuracy, everyone, even with no resistance built, becomes a mischief tank, easy on hard as well. Sissia and Tila churning out the damage. Nice combo with Tila. Puts out continuous heal. Oella extends those heals too. We have the decreased speed and provokes from Cybele. Double provoke set. And Shamail then to make Head of Torment a non-issue. Decreased defense and weak from Sissia. So it's a legendary heavy team. It's a powerful team. The fun thing about this one is, where's the photo? It's this photo here. No, it's not. That's the wrong photo. It's this photo here. So I took these a few days ago. So it's taken me a while to actually get around to putting this video together. Been a crazy weekend. But yeah, as you can see, we're doing the 1 key damage in about 8 minutes, right? About 36 turns of the boss. This team slams through. It is very consistent. It's very strong. This is really the basis of a team you can take up easily into Brutal. And then with very, very good gear, you can take it up into Nightmare as well. And it's going to perform for you really well in all of those. So definitely overkill for hard, but hopefully giving you a good idea for some of the synergies that you can build here. Let's take a look at the champions and how they are built. And what we're going to be doing for them. So Mother Cybele is up first. She is in that provoke set. I like the 2 champions with AoEs that are constantly doing AoEs in provoke. That's a decent way to deal with the Head of Decay. Especially if you don't have a good provoke champion. You can always bring in someone like Bivald of the Thorn or Soulless or something like that, Kantra. There are really good provoke champs out there. Molly Tankard, I just did a video on recently, my best ever Hydra key run with Molly Tankard. If you don't have any of those provoke champions though, provoke set is good. 2 provoke sets is much better for consistency for that full auto run. So she's in that plus perception. You can actually see her chest piece is not rolled up. I actually think when I did the run, she was missing a chest piece and I put it on after. So she's coming in with good speed, tanky-ish, and yeah, then just accuracy. This is way overkill for hard. We don't need that much, but that's okay. It's gonna be it's gonna work out fine. So there you go. That is how we're gonna make her work. Her masteries, we've got War Master and just making her decreased speed debuff more consistent. We're gonna actually turn off her abilities and just let her do her A1. You can leave her doing her A2, that's fine. So I leave her, I think, with her A2 on with this team for the increased defense, and then just spamming her A1. We're going to turn off the A3. It's just a bit awkward. Although with Oella, you could probably make this work, but I just don't need to turn it on for this full auto team. If you don't have an increased resist team, like I do here, this move can be very bad. It's going to throw Head of Mischief all over the place, and he's going to steal some really nasty stuff. So be careful of that. That's her. Who else do we have in this team? We go back to my screenshot here. So we've got Uko, Tila, Sissia, Oella. Okay, so let's look at Uko first. Uko, he's coming in. This is more of a PvP build. For pure Hydra, I'd say War Master is better. You're going to do a lot of damage for free. Why not take it? This build is more for PvP, but it works great here. We're making him more likely to place that decreased attack, and we're extending his debuffs as well. And we're making it more likely to place the provoke, which is great for Hydra, though it does cost you a ton of damage. Provoke set and perception right here. And he's coming in very good speed, solid accuracy, and actually very tanky. This is my PvP built Uko, although I'd say stun set is a bit better there because stun is so much stronger. But provoke is more consistent, and it's not bad for PvP if you got him tanky, but if your Uko is a bit squishy, stun's better. Nice thing about provoke, it works both in arena and it works in Hydra, so that's the nice thing. So yeah, that is Uko. And again, he is running in Polymorph for arena, which is fine. If you're running him as your only legendary in your team for Hydra, Brimstone's going to add a bit more oomph right there. We had Sissia, who was in the team as well. There's Sissia. So Sissia, I have rebuilt a bit. Recently enough, I've built her with higher speed now. This is especially for Spider Hard 10, as well with ARTAK. So with her and ARTAK coming in together, you're going to see the ARTAK build in today's video too. It gives you that perfect HP burn explosion team that rips through hard Spider as well. Effort free, basically. So it's very good. So good speed, 251. As tanky as we can get her, we got her with some crit rate, bit of damage, etc. You could build her with more damage and less survivability if you find that she's living just fine. It's sort of a balance with her. She's got really bad defensive base stats, so it's quite a bit of effort to get her built this tanky. But for Hydra, often you're looking for a bit more tankiness. You don't need the highest damage. You're sort of letting your max HP damage, your burns do the work for you, right? Your War Master, etc. do the work for you, regardless. Not using all the time just raw damage. So again, very similar build here, pretty straightforward. War Master for her, and pretty straightforward. You could run Giant Slayer on her. War Master is going to be a bit more consistent with her AoEs, which I think is better for Spider and for Hydra. Her A1, of course, is better with Giant Slayer, but she's hopefully not going to be A1ing that often. We'll see. But yeah, Perception on her. Relentless is probably the best. Just get her cycling through turns as much as you can. Reflex would be pretty good too. Good substitute. Impulse, good substitute. But triple Perception works fine because she's pretty stat intensive, to be fair. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with her. We had next up, I've already forgotten. I listed them out. Oella, of course, is one of them. Let's see where Oella is. I remember Oella, and then I've forgotten the other legendary. Is Oella in the vault? She might just be. Let's have a quick little gander. There she is. There's Oella. Oella, love this champion. She's in speed and stalwart. I'd say Guardian set is ideal. Guardian set, Oella's really tanky. Her base stats are great. She's never really going to die in Hydra. Guardian is just going to make the rest of your team more consistent. So I might re-gear her. Not a huge deal though, especially just for hard Hydra. For me, obviously we're out gearing it, not a big deal. 274 speed, 313 resistance, and then HP and defense. You could build her with accuracy for that decreased speed A1. It is achievable for hard. That's doable if you got your faction guardians maxed out, or not faction guardians, but your affinity bonuses. Even if we add on, actually we're getting, a bit bonus from area bonuses here as well. Faction guardians would help if you've got that. Like, you could build her with accuracy for hard, but for nightmare and that sort of stuff, it's really hard to get enough stats and still land the decreased speed. So it's up to you. Obviously this team, Mother Cybele, pretty consistent decreased speed, but depends on the exact team you're building. But those are some considerations. Let me see the other champ that I've forgotten. It is Tila. Tila's the one I forgot. Okay, I think she's in the vault as well. Yes, she is. All right, let's grab her out. There she is. And then it's one of the Shemales. One of them. I've got so many. So Tila's coming in. Pretty standard to the rest of what you've seen here today. High speed, tanky, and a bit of resistance for the Oella stuff, and accuracy. Again, this is enough accuracy really for Nightmare Hydra. Preferably 400 for Nightmare, but 350 is loads. It's still going to work nearly all the time on most of the heads, just bad for suffering. For hard, it's way overkill. She's going to come in with the AoE burns. Great champ. And these are her masteries. Oella's masteries, if I didn't show them, I don't think I did, were these. Just focus on healing. And Tila's are these. Standard enough. Extender buffs, extender debuffs. That's kind of it. So yeah, there you are. Then we have, do I have information on which Shemale is? I think I forgot, so I was going to do this live. So that was the team. Oh, it doesn't show right here. It's missing the icon. Well, I've got 3. Which one was it? It's probably, I think it's number 2. I think it's protection set Shemale. So he's just coming in and nothing in particular, really. He's just there, kind of. He's got lots of resistance, backup resistance tank, as it were. Blood shield accessory on him is great. Not a great build. There's definitely better builds that you could do than this. This is what we've got him in. In fact, let me show you. Let me get you a good build. So let me zip this over. And this is something I'm going to show you a bit later in the video. It's chatting with SP Panda, one of the top clans, the Sacred Pandas clans here. This is his Inquisitor Shemale build, which I'd say is more like a bit more of an ideal build for a lot of these teams. And I might actually do a full video on this, breaking it down. But this is going in with the Guardian set, which, I do have my number 1 Shemale and Guardian set. I think this is really good. He sort of perfected the build, as it were. Coming in with Guardian set. And then you're building him with good damage. So he's got a bit of damage, lacking attack. It's hard to get all these stats, right? But building him pretty tanky, with some Guardian set to keep your team alive, decent damage, good resistance, and a Blood Shield accessory. What this does is he deals a Head of Torment. He comes in then, the Guardian set, he's helping your team stay alive as well. He gives your team some ally protection with that. He's still pumping out some damage as well, so that's pretty nice. The Blood Shield helps him be a mischief tank. Because he's slow, he will generally have more buffs than everybody else. He's giving himself a shield buff constantly with his passive proccing his A1. And yeah, then he gets targeted by Mischief. He has enough resistance. He's tanking Mischief. So he's dealing with Torment. He's dealing with Mischief. He helps you stay alive. That's good against, let's say, Wrath and Blight, even Torment a bit as well again. And then doing decent damage is just good in general. So that enables him, this type of build, to combat so many different heads. So those are the options, but it's flexible, right? And you can do whatever it sort of is you can do with your gear. So you can see with this Shamail I'm using on this team, I'm pretty sure it's this one. He does have the Blood Shield, all right? And he does have high resistance. So that's going to make the Mischief tanking more consistent. He's got a little bit of speed, but his damage isn't as good. He doesn't have the Guardian with this build. So that's one of the things that we're giving up with that. All right, cool. Jumping in then. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. This is the pack they did the other day. Now they're just doing it. You can buy 5 of them. Wow. They're really plowing out the Soulstone packs. I did the 100 Soulstone pull video yesterday, or, well, I don't know. I've lost track of all these days over the weekend. And that's me, I think, good. That's me good for another while. Thank you. I'll come back in a couple of months. So for Brutal then. The Brutal team, this is the team I've shown before a couple of times. Love this team. This is great. Actually, I can double check. Yeah, the Guardian set Shamail in here. Perfect. You see, this team did on auto, actually one of its worst auto runs so far. It's typically like 80 million-ish. We did 60 million this time. And you can see the breakdown and the champions. So let's take a look at these different champions. And the interesting thing as well, how long did it take to one key this? Let me see, I believe this is the picture. This is the team. It took us 51 turns to get the one key on Brutal, which was about 10 minutes of full auto gameplay. So again, every single team I'm showing you here today works on full auto, 0 interaction required. Which is always a good thing. That's kind of the goal, right, of Hydra. You don't care necessarily about having the best team possible. You're like, I just want to hit auto. Every rotation, the team goes and they one key it and I'm done. So in this team, very similar to my very best team ever, we got Mithrala. This, I showed you a nuke Mithrala and my best team ever on the test server. This is my more general Mithrala build, which is more focused on arena. So we've got 4-piece stone skin for arena to make her a consistent cleanser. The only way to really deal with this Mithrala and stone skin is for an increased accuracy bomb, but that's about it, or increase accuracy lockout or something like that. Even increase accuracy buff strips, it's still not guaranteed at all that they could strip her. So very consistent to deal with like bomb teams and stuff in Tag Arena. But she's in this build, so good speed, very high accuracy plus resistance combined together with her passive is very strong. And yeah, them tanky enough as well. So that's Mithrala. And then she's coming in with, again, very defensive arena focused masteries. So it's quite a contrast to my best Hydra key video from the last week. Check it out as well, where we had her built purely for Hydra, which is more focused on damage, War Master, that sort of thing. She still does great damage here because of really a lot of her damage comes from Hex, honestly. So she's still fantastic, but it's just an interesting way to build a champ like this, which is like, ooh, a bit more versatile, fit in lots of teams, versus I only want this champion for one particular thing and specializing your build. Next up, we've got Turvold in this team, and he's so strong, right? Mithrala gives him the increased attack. Well, he gives it to himself, but her bringing increased attack does mean that Turvold is not going to be targeted too much by Head of Mischief. That's sort of the goal here, right? Because he gives himself a lot of buffs, increased attack, crit rate, and speed. So with this team, we have increased attack and increased speed extremely consistently. So he's only going to be 1 buff ahead. We bring in a Mischief tank then, and that makes him safer. Because of this extra turn mechanic, he's going to outrun some of the other buffs. They're going to drop off, and that will make him safe. He'll be targeted by Mischief sometimes, but by using a Mischief tank, it's going to make it more consistent. Whereas if you're going in and putting him in a team and you don't have these other buffs, and he's giving himself multiple buffs and he's ahead, he's going to be targeted by Mischief. You're not going to have resistance on a Turvold. All of his buffs are going to be stolen. His damage goes down. Head of Mischief starts popping off. Your key gets much worse. So that's always something to watch out for. Fun thing with him, we have Heaven Cast actually, because we're not going to build too much accuracy. This does give him great attacking stats, and ignoring resistance is great for his A1, because his A1 does bring in a weaken, which is brilliant actually. So there you go. So he is coming in, decent speed, high attack, high crit damage, 70% crit rate because he gives himself increased crit, some defensive stats so he stays alive, and then accuracy is great. So again, if we go to like Hydra, he's 200 accuracy, including the bonuses. He's a champion that really scales well with lots of different stats. For his masteries, we're going to run Helm Smasher. He hits so hard, it just will do more damage, and it also makes him pretty good for PvP as well. If you can protect him, it's a decent PvP champ, even with the same build. So useful champ all around. Next up in this team, this is also the Necmo Tharth team. Again, I showed a Relentless build in my best ever team because we had a Molly Tankard. In this team, he is the Provoke champion. So he's the one and only, right? But being boosted up by Shamail, he's pretty consistent, certainly consistent enough to auto Brutal. You could even use him to auto Nightmare, but it might not be fully consistent. Probably he could even get away with it. He's one of the best Provoke set champs in the game. Of course, running him in Relentless or Reflex or something like that, higher speed, is a great option as well. So at this, we're running him as fast as we can. He does need to be a bit tanky because he has extra turns to outrun the buffs and have good accuracy, and that's sort of simply it. Masteries, War Master, extending buffs, giving him more accuracy. Simple enough stuff. Brimstone, of course. He's going to be the lead. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Who else do we have in this team? Let me double check. This is the downside of doing all of these big team videos, is that you lose track. Yes, only one more legendary in this team, and it's a personal favorite, which is Vanicus the Chosen. Right, so no Brimstone on her. We've got... we have Intimidating Presence, give us a bit more speed. Also good for Arena. And some, not bad for Doom Tower. Kind of hard to fit good blessings onto her. Brimstone doesn't work because she's got no accuracy, right? So she's coming in with Reflex, which is quite important. Again, well, no, I would not run Relentless because she's a Mischief tank. So Reflex is really the way to go. Refresh accessories are the way to go. Anything like that, right? The goal is we're going to turn off her A3. We don't want that. No, thank you, because it's an extra turn. We don't want that. She's a Mischief tank. Reason is her A1 keeps giving her continuous heals, right? So that's going to give her always one buff. If she extends it with the Mastery to extend buffs, she could have her start stacking up multiple of these with the extending buffs that she does as well. So a really great champ, super underrated. But she brings 3 random allies in for an ally attack. They're going to use the, all that. But this gives you 30% turn meter fill and extends buffs. So this is great. Again, if you get that buff extension and she comes in with 1 turn of continuous heal, she'll start extending it with this, and then you'll get better uptime, make her better at Mischief tanking. She's going to be super tanky. It adds a lot of damage because the ally attack is a big single target hit effectively, which is very strong, especially with Hex from Mithrala. And yeah, the turn meter boost, extending buffs, make stuff consistent, the Mischief tanking. So she's a really, really nice champion. Very underrated. I'm pretty much the only person I know of actually that uses her, but I think she's great. Next up then we have Ugo. So here is Tugo. Tugo is going into this team. This is Ugo number 2, Tugo, as she's affectionately known. Relentless set is the best. I'd be prioritizing Relentless usually for my block buff champions to get as many turns. Ugo, for example, brings great healing as well with her cleanse that she's kind of smart about using with her AI. So we want to set her priority 1 on her decreased defense and block buffs move, but leave her free to use this whenever, because she won't use it if everyone's full HP and don't have debuffs. She'll use it kind of smartly, which is a cool thing with her. But yeah, she comes in. Good speed. Actually, her speed's pretty bad. We could really make this better. This build's pretty bad on Ugo. You see my other Ugo much better. It really wants her to be as much speed as possible, good accuracy, and then lots of HP. It's what you're looking for. Even some defense is nice. She's got good base defense, so it's pretty easy to build at. And yeah, then these sort of masteries, right? Just making those debuffs more consistent. Very important to have Sniper to make the block buffs 100% for Hydra and extending those debuffs. And it's all about keeping these debuffs, decreased defense block buffs, your 2 favorite alongside decreased speed debuffs. To have up there, she's great for that. Brings the leech as well. So that is Tugo. Then we're using the Guardian set Shamail. Shamail number 1 for this. So we're using Shamail number 2 for for hard, 1 for brutal, and 3 for nightmare. Does it make sense? It does to me. Don't ask questions. So he's in the Guardian set. This Shamail is coming in. Fairly generic. So he's just sort of tanky. Again, not the best possible build. He's a bit faster. He does not have blood shield, so he's not a Mischief tank. He doesn't have resistance. He's not there to Mischief tank. He is there to do some, like a little bit of damage, not much, contribute some damage, and also be tanky, help the team survive. Like I said, it's not the best possible build, but this is one of my original builds. I will go back and update the Shamails. It's a fairly easy build to achieve. Nothing is super high priority in terms of the build. We just kind of want him there in Guardian and staying alive. And he's basically just giving us Guardian. He's giving us the passive and a bit of damage. It's a fairly low investment build and kind of standard enough Shamail masteries there as well. So that is that team. Then we come to the final team, which I'll be honest is actually not super optimized for Hydra at the moment, but it is a 1 key full auto team. You can see it's not super optimized because we're quite a bit down the list this time. Quite a bit down the list. Wait, where are we? There we are. Okay, so we're coming in 44 million. Again, you know, we're seeing some of these other teams. It's very similar to that, really. So it's not too bad. But this team is coming in, and this is the ARTAK team. And you can see ARTAK, even after his nerf, is still sort of the star of the show. He's still the top damage. He's going beast mode. Very, very useful. Husk is a bit closer now after the ARTAK nerfs, but ARTAK is still a monster. He's still so good. He is in the Nightmare team that is full auto. It's really good. I likely will be switching this team up a bit at some point, probably putting Sifi in, possibly putting Sifi in instead of Elva. I'm thinking that's not super important. I don't know, maybe Elva actually is better here. I'll have to think about it. I might try them both. It doesn't really bother me. But anyway, look, that's aside from the point. Look, 44 million. It took us this one. No, not this one. This one. Yeah, because I only took the picture today. That's right. So this one, it took us about 90 turns, 17 minutes. So we got some bad luck. And you can actually see at a quick glance from this picture what the bad luck is, what your problem is. This team gets a lot better if you're willing to semi-auto it. And by that, I mean, if you're willing to come in and click Head of Decay every time, this team is miles better. The reason being our provoke situation is not very good. Our provoke, we've got Krisk, obviously, 1 turn every 3 turns he will provoke, but that's it. Apart from Husk's A1, and if Husk's A1 is not going to target Head of Decay automatically, it means you don't get the value out of that provoke. So as you can see, the rest of the team is mostly AoEs. We don't really care what they're targeting. So clicking Head of Decay with Husk, making that provoke consistent from Husk, will make this team much better. But for this run, I just let them go. I said, go in full auto. Let's see if it works, make sure it does. And yes, it did work full auto. They cleared through it, no problem really, but it wasn't as good as it could have been if you're willing to click that head, right? It's a small thing, but it makes a huge amount of difference. You can see here, he's already clearly got cleanses off, and that's bad, right? He's cycling through his abilities, and that's really going to reduce your damage. It's going to make your run much more inconsistent because you're going to get poison cloud blocking people. You're going to have reflect damage going up, increase attack going up, block buffs going up. It's going to be pretty nasty. So that's big time something to watch out for. So how are we building this team? What is the idea of this team? Pretty simple, like Krisk Mischief tanks. Elva keeps everyone alive. We've got the increased speed, even the block buffs, block debuffs from Elva, with the decreased defense and block buffs from Ugo. Then ARTAK is just pumping out damage. Husk is pumping out damage. Shamail does a little bit of damage, and he's going to be turn meter boosting that ARTAK, getting out all those AoE attacks. Very simple, very straightforward, very, very effective. And you could make different variants of this team yourself as well, right? If you don't have Krisk, put in a different Mischief tank you could use. I'd say a great budget option for this sort of team. Skiramis does have maybe a little overlap because he's putting out decreased attack, and ARTAK is bringing that as well. But there's kind of no harm in that. But he could be a really good option, Krisk style, A3, which is cool, right? Putting buffs on himself, AoE provoke as well. Great champion for this, to Mischief tank and to bring you some provoke. So he could be a decent option. Like I said, not the perfect overlap with ARTAK, you know, that both bring in decreased attack. It's not perfect, but it's still pretty good. ARTAK then, where is he? ARTAK, he's still in my original build, and this is where you could definitely make a change. I have him in Relentless and Perception, which is great. You could totally build him, though, in Provoke set. I think it'd be very, very good. The Provoke set would make this more full auto friendly without requiring you to click anything. Make it more consistent with worse gear or some worse champions. It would make that Provoke much more, much better. Up to you. You can really run him in whatever, right? If you've got him in a solo build, it's going to work fine as well. You just need to make sure you've got decent accuracy. Ours is even a little bit low for Nightmare. We'd like a bit more. We turn on Hydra battles, goes up to 360. It's still a little bit low for Nightmare, so we could crank that up. I will probably rebuild ARTAK at some point. You can see I have him with 100% crit rate, 218% crit damage, and relentless. He's in pretty good gear, right? And he doesn't need that. He doesn't hit very hard. It's really all about blowing up the burns. So we could definitely switch this up. At 250 speed, this is ideal for that hard spider farm. Check out my ARTAK guide to see that in action. But yeah, he's beast mode for this. Super good. Masteries, War Master. He's pumping out the AoE hits, extending his burns. Perfect. Yeah, he's beast mode. Great champion. Really strong. We add a Husk in there. I think it's Husk 1. Yeah, it's Husk 1. Oh, Husk 1 is missing a ring. Whoops. Well, Husk 1 missing a ring. Hey, it's 225 speed, 360 accuracy, bit of crit damage. Boom. Pretty simple. Let's give him a ring right now while we're here, because I will forget otherwise. That's the HP is a priority. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Give him even a bit of counter-attacking. If he gets targeted by Head of Decay, provoke him right back up. That could work pretty well. So there we go. Husk 1. We are using Shamail number 3. This Shamail is actually in Stone Skin. You could run him in 6-speed Stone Skin. You could use him in Arena like this. So he's got decent speed. He's actually got quite good damage, and that's sort of it. He's not really in danger of dying. He's got Helm Smasher. So this is more of a damaged Shamail. So his damage is going to be pretty high. That being said, you can see it's not a huge deal. Like if I go to the final damage, it's the wrong picture. Struggling with the pictures today. Yeah, like this one right here, you can see he did 3.7 million. Is good, but it's not crazy. Like he's very far behind Husk and ARTAK here in this team. So the problem being he doesn't have increased attack as well to up his damage. So again, for this one, I'd be saying you could definitely lean more towards the utility. Like building these offensive stats is not really necessary. And something like Giant Slayer would give him more damage for Hydra as well if you're going maximum damage. You could check out my top Hydra damage run. I've pimped it out like 3 times now in this video, but in that one, I did build a Shamail to do like max damage, and he did way more than this. So yeah, sort of in this case with the 3 Shamails, and I'm much more chill about Hydra just in a live game because it's like, hey, I've got this thing nailed down pretty much. We're good. Ugo number 1, much better gear than the other Ugo. 263 speed, that's more like it. Still good. Health and defense. Again, accuracy is a little low for Nightmare, but it still mostly works just fine. And she actually has Miracle Heal on. You can run Cruelty. Doesn't really matter. It's only 1 star on both of them. Doesn't do much. Then who else do we have in this team? Elva, of course. Here's Elva. Elva is coming in very high speed, very tanky. This is my Elva I use all the time in Arena. She's a beast. I use her all the time for like duo, Ice Golem, and Dragon hard mode dungeons. A beast. This yeah, Elva is just insanely good for it because she has such short cooldowns. But yeah, obviously for pure Hydra, Stone Skin doesn't do anything for you. Like Stalwart gear, Defiant gear, just giving her damage reduction is going to be ideal for those hard mode dungeons to help her stay alive, even with worse stats. Speed gear, make her fast, anything like that. It's really up to you. Righteous gear, if you got that from the Forge Pass right now, Righteous gear would be great. So you're flexible with that. Stone Skin's nice for Arena for that extra protection, but not essential. But there you go. That is Elva. Sort of Reviver type masteries. And yeah, that's her. Then we have Krisk, of course. So Krisk, he's coming in, again, fairly good gear here. 70k HP, 3.3k defense, 246 speed. So he's on the slower end of the team. That's kind of what you want. But you don't want it to be too slow because you want him extending the buffs consistently. Lots of accuracy, lots of resistance, mischief tanking, debuffing very consistently. Yeah, he's kind of beast mode. These are the masteries, straightforward enough. I'd say the big thing to watch out for is Blood Shield. Blood Shield accessory can make him a bit more consistent with having a tiny shield, encourage Head of Mischief to target him even more. It helps quite a bit. Ideally, Revenge, like double Revenge plus 1 Blood Shield would be really good. If you've got them, I would definitely use them. I just don't have them for Lizard Man. But if you do have them, they're great. It will make his decreased speed more consistent too, because it's pretty inconsistent. He only does it 1 turn out of 3 otherwise, because his other moves are so good. Alternative gear sets, Reflex, really good. Reflex will make him Mischief Tank and Provoke much better. You'll make the decreased speed worse. That's where Revenge can be useful, or Ally Attack or something like that. But yeah, Reflex can make him better at those jobs if you can hit the stats. He's stat intensive. If you can hit the stats, I'd say Reflex be the way to go. Maybe Impulse. Let me see. I think that's everyone from this team, is it? Let's double check. Here we go. We showed the Husk, the Krisk, the thing. That's all of them. So yeah, there you are, guys. They are the 3 teams I'm running right now. One thing I wanted to show you, I thought this was an interesting look as well. Again, chatting to Panda from Sacred Pandas, right? Check this out. He's basically, built up a whole bunch of Hydra teams on a bunch of different accounts. And I thought it was interesting to look at his teams that he has built on these accounts, even using champions that aren't fully booked, don't have the best gear. You're going to see a lot of trends here for sure. Yeah, it gives you an interesting insight. And I think in particular, looking at what he's going to use for Nightmare versus Brutal is an interesting one too, because it's like always, for me, it's almost opposite in some ways, which was like, I built my Nightmare team back in the day, like my best team, but then as I've gotten more champions, I've just been using those to improve the weaker teams, and my Nightmare team is probably not the best it could be. So interesting. And whenever a new Hydra difficulty comes around, I'm gonna like tear apart all my teams, build the best team possible for the hardest difficulty, and then like work with what's left to build a Nightmare team. It's quite a different mindset. But if we look here, I think some consistent things. Well, number one, we've got our boy ARTAK here in a Nightmare team. That's cool. We've got ARTAK over here in a Brutal team. That's nice. One thing I think is big for this rotation, we've got a Shamail in almost every single team here. Every team almost running Shamail. No Shamail here, but we do have a Tuhanarak, sort of replacing that. So that's basically dealing with Head of Torment. Head of Torment fix in every single team. We have Ugo, and again, almost every single team. Ugo just MVP. Such a good champion. Again, here, Tuhanarak is sort of covering that role as well of the block buffs. In this case, I guess you've got Michinaki also brings the decreased defense, and Krisk does it as well. Mischief tanks are a pretty big deal. So we've got Krisk. I think in a lot of these teams, he's actually building the Shamail in the build I showed you. Sorry, this one does have a Krisk. This one is Shamail. And then these two he has Krisk. So in the teams he's got Krisk as Mischief tank in most of them, pretty luxury, right? But when he doesn't have Krisk, that's where he comes in with this sort of Shamail build, which is Blood Shield accessory, low speed, tanky enough, and high resistance. And that lets Shamail Mischief tank. Anything like this, again, a bit more flexible with the numbers. The Nightmare one, you're going to need more like 500 resistance. Actually, you probably should run about 500 resistance for both of them, really. But both these Brutal and Nightmare difficulties. But that's sort of how you can deal with it on a budget, in a sense, if you don't have a Krisk, right? So I thought that's interesting. We have speed manipulation. We've got it with Mother Cybele and Krisk. We got Necmo. Even Sifi does it here. Necmo Krisk. Necmo Krisk. Here, Mother Cybele Krisk. Necmo just does it by himself, right? So speed manipulation is in every single team. And then we've got like the Burns, right? Burns in there as well. I've already used red. That would have been perfect. Pink it is. Geomancer. No, I've already used pink. Let's use yellow. Got Geomancer. Even Geomancer Husk. Let's throw in the damage. So here we've got damage from these two. Here we've got damage from, again, Husk and ARTAK. Very common. Husk ARTAK. Geomancer Husk. Geomancer Husk. Yeah. ARTAK Husk. Here we've got Michinaki Husk, Michinaki being probably the best out of all of these options. Here again, it's Geomancer Husk. So very similar with the damage options for this rotation as well. You can sort of see the template here of what we want to be running. I guess the sort of odd one out is the Python showing up in a couple of the Nightmare teams to help them stay alive. And kind of varied as well. Like this one doesn't have a Krisk. So Python is enough to keep them alive. Here they do have a Krisk, but Python keeping them alive too. This should be very stable. You can actually see this one is sort of overkill in the sense that it's doing 50 million. So more consistent. We've got the Krisk and the Necmo, plus the Michinaki, Tuhanarak, the Python, the Huz. It's a great team, and that's why it's smashing out more damage than the others. Yeah, this account right here is clearly the most stacked. It's got the biggest damage numbers. These ones are a bit weaker. I thought one interesting thing was these two teams right here are basically the same, but based off of the gear, how booked the champions are. On this team, it's his second best. On this account, it's the best team, right? Where he sort of flipped it otherwise. Like he's got his Necmo. Yeah, the Necmo Geo team, as it were, is his best team on this account, but on this account, it's the one that he uses for Brutal. I thought that was kind of interesting. It just depends on your gear for these champions, how booked they are, and so on. So I thought that was cool as well to see some other examples. But there you go, guys. They're all my Hydra teams. Oh, look at that. We've got a blessing for him. Here you go. Have Soul Reap, I guess. Oh no, I think actually for him, you want Lightning Cage, probably. Doesn't matter. I'll give him Lightning Cage. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, there we go. Development pack. That looks, I don't know. It's expensive. It looks expensive is what it is. I like void shards. I like legendary books. They're my two favorite things. But dear Lord, it's so expensive. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting. I will be back, obviously, for another full overview with Hydra Rotation 3 in a couple of weeks. We'll see where we end up. One of the big things that's going to make a difference for me, obviously got Sifi coming in. Michinaki might be coming in at some point and mixing up these teams. ARTAK kind of stole his legendary books from me on my account, so that's what slowed us down. I'll see you all soon though. Thank you for watching. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. See ya. Goodbye.